How do you identify coordinates? Well, coordinates are basically a way to identify where a point lies in space, in the horizontal direction, which is the x, and the vertical direction, which is the y. Most points have both, well, all points have both an x and y coordinate, and we're basically just going to practice reading what those coordinates are. So the question asks, what is the x coordinate of the point plotted below? Well, where is the point? This point right here, it is directly on the x-axis, and it is directly on the point 3 on the x-axis. So the x coordinate is 3. What is the x coordinate of the point plotted below? This time, the point is not directly on the x-axis, but I can still tell where the point, or what the x coordinate is, by simply following the point back down to the x-axis. If I follow it back down to the x-axis, I can see that it crosses where x is 6. That means the x coordinate is 6. What is the x coordinate of this point? Well, again, I have the same strategy. I know the x is not directly on the x-axis. The point is not directly on the x-axis. But if I follow the point back down to the x-axis, I'll see that it crosses where x is 0. Why 0? Because if I'm counting down 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, my point right here will be 0. So I know that the x coordinate for this point is 0. What is the y coordinate of the point plotted below? Well, the y coordinate would be where you lined up on the y-axis. So if I take this point and I trace it back over to the y-axis, I can see that it crosses at y is 6. So my y coordinate is 6. Let's do a few more. What is the x coordinate of this point? And this time I'll give you the x coordinate and the y coordinate, but then only answer the question in the program. So the x coordinate, if I trace it back down to the x-axis, the x coordinate is 5. But you should also know that the y coordinate would be what you get when you trace it back over to the y-axis, which is 4. So the coordinates for this problem will be 5, 4. So for this point, the x coordinate is 5 and the y coordinate is 4. And you always write your points as x, comma, y. The x comes first because x comes first in the alphabet. So this coordinate will be 5, comma, 4. The x coordinate is 5. So let's take a look at this one. What is the y coordinate of the point plotted? Well, let's find out what both coordinates are. We should always look for both coordinates. The x comes before the y. And so this coordinate, the x-axis, on the x-axis, if I trace this back down, it goes through at x equals 6. And the y, if I trace that over, I can see that it's going to cross where y is equal to 3. So that means that my y coordinate is 3. And since they only asked me for my y coordinate in the question, my y is 3. What is the x coordinate of the point plotted below? So once again, I know I should be writing the coordinates as x, comma, y. So I look at the x-axis first. And in this case, the x is directly on 2 on the x-axis. So 2, comma, and if I trace this over to the y-axis, if I follow it over to the y-axis, I can see that it crosses at 0, because again, 3, 2, 1, 0. This is called the origin. So my y would be 0. So the x is 2 and the y is 0. Since they asked me for the x coordinate, then my x is going to be 2. And so one more. What is the x coordinate of the point plotted below? So I'm asking for the x coordinate, but we're going to practice finding both. And so we have x comma y. X coordinate comes first, so if I trace this back down to the x-axis, I can see that it crosses where x is 1, so x is 1, and I can see that it crosses on the y-axis where y is 5, so 1 comma 5. They asked me for the x-coordinate. The x-coordinate is obviously the first coordinate, and so x will be 1. So that's all you're doing. It's just a matter of taking the point that you have, tracing it back to the x-axis for the x-coordinate, and tracing it back to the y-axis for the y-coordinate. And if you do that, you'll have no issue with this. Hope it helps. Let's get it done.